And welcome back to another short edition of the Wrestler's Dozen. I am Randy.
Jim.
And this week we get ready for Survivor Series. We're going to have a couple episodes on this, but one thing that I really miss about Survivor Series, like they did in the early 90s, was when teams would come up with goofy names.
Oh, yeah. You're always interested to see what was going to happen and who was going to be the leader of the match or whatever of the teams.
And just the weird stuff that they would come up with. We'll go through them here in a minute, but it's so boring now. It's either Team Raw versus Team SmackDown, or Team Cena versus Team Batista, or whoever the leader is. It's Team them. So they don't come up with these cool names like they did in the early iterations of the Survivor Series, and we're going to rank 6 of those right now, and we're going to start off with a great one, which kind of goes along with Team Cena and Team Raw. But the Heenan family, which was just a staple altogether, if you were managed by Heenan, which it was a giant family in the 80s, worked really, really well for a Survivor Series team.
Definitely did. Bobby Heenan, obviously one of the greatest managers of all time, which will come on down the line. He ran WWF at the time far as being one of the greater managers, and just him having his own team makes perfect sense.
I want to go back and just count how many wrestlers were managed by either Heenan or Jimmy Hart. It was like half the roster.
Pretty much.
Was taken by those two.
That.
And how we didn't have a Team Hart versus Team Heenan Survivor Series.
Right.
I don't know. Next one. Again, kind of goes with who was the captain of the team, Mr. Perfect. But the Perfect Team sounds like a great name for a Survivor Series name.
Yeah.
Just, again, honestly, it's just the simplicity of some of these. Again, I wish they would just go with it. Instead of just Team Cena, how about the Attitude Adjusters or something really stupid?
Right.
Like that. Like this next one, the Natural Disasters. It makes sense.
Yeah. Typhoon, earthquake. Who else was on that one?
They were the leaders of it. I honestly can't remember who else was on it. But again, it makes perfect sense as to why you name it that team, but it's not just Team Natural Disasters. It's something semi-clever. We're reaching here, people. But it was cool for a little bit. How about this one? The team was terrible, but the name's great. The Royal Family.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like a perfect team name until you realize it was Jerry Lawler and 3 midgets. Have you watched that match?
I did. It didn't quite. It wasn't one that jumped out at me.
Do you think it's going to make our top 12 Survivor Series matches?
I hope not.
No.
That's just me personally speaking.
Spoilers, it won't. Let's go on with another one. Again, super simple team names. The $1 Million Team.
Just who fit? Ted DiBiase, IRS,
Virgil, it just makes sense. And the last one, which I think has the most interesting one, the Roode Brood. I want to know where they had come up with that. Obviously, Rick Rude was the team captain, and instead of Team Rude, I wanted to know where they came up with the Brood, because there was a Brood like
down the road
10 years later, completely different than the team that Rude had. Anyways. So, this is a silly concept, I think, as far as a list, because it only happened for, 3 years?
Something like that.
Where they came up with team names?
It was a concept that worked. People were talking about the team names instead of just who was on the team, per se. I think it kept you more intrigued. Like, when you say the Roode Brood or Roddy's Rowdies, didn't make the list, but is another name that jumps out at you. You know, it piques your interest. You remember that name more than just when you say the Royal Family. Right off the bat you went Jerry Lawler and 3 midgets.
Yeah, you remember
that was what stuck.
What year that came out with, for the most part. I mean, a lot of these are so old, our memories are gone.
Yeah,
but I tell you who was on Team Raw, and you go, which year?
Right. Because then you pretty much know the roster and who was the good guys and who were the bad guys. And that's how it all panned out, basically.
And the one thing, we'll talk about it when we do the matches, the thing I like the most about Survivor Series, and I wish they would do more of, instead of just Team Raw versus Team SmackDown, was just the weird combinations that you would get. And Team Raw versus Team SmackDown still gets that, because you have good guys and bad guys teaming up
And
together.
you have
still,
one person on the team turn on somebody else half the time.
Yeah.
It's just the formula of the match.
And usually, the way things will get set up on most of these, it'll be just different rivalries will get combined. I like it more when it's one rivalry and then just a bunch of randoms that you don't see wrestle often.
Because that even can strike up a feud later on down the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if you put this person out, they can come back for a title match and knock you out. And I think that would work today, especially with the storylines, because granted they just had their little draft or whatever, but
bad time.
You could have, if you set that up, you could have somebody that gets traded to that show and they just surprise everybody by popping up, screwing up your title match or whatever you want to call it, your streak you got going for
All
it.
right, so let's get back on track here. Let's rank
Sorry,
these guys.
folks.
Well, we had filler. We needed filler for this episode, people.
Sixth.
All right, out of these 6, the Heenan family, perfect team, natural disasters, royal family, $1 million team, Roode Brood. Give me one that you think should be near the bottom.
Royal family, because like you said, it's just one. I mean, the name is there. It makes sense. But when you think about the actual match, that's all you remember is Jerry Lawler and 3 midgets. 3 or 4 midgets on the team.
Let's go. I'll put one down too. The Heenan family, I'll knock down. It was a stable.
Yeah.
It wasn't as clever because it was a team name. Same thing, $1 million team, I think.
Yep.
We'll go ahead and put
Good chunk of that was just the stable who ran with him.
natural disasters as well, I think. So we'll put, which one's better, $1 million team or natural disasters?
I think Natural Disasters team name is better.
Okay.
By far.
All right, so the winners, the perfect team or the Roode Brood. I have my pick. I want to see if you agree.
Either name works.
You
Honestly,
have to pick one.
Well, no, I know. I'm getting there.
Okay.
Either name works if you just go on the name alone.
Yeah.
But I think far as like the star power, I think the Roode Brood had more of that star power than the perfect team did.
We're just talking about the name.
Oh, well then, yeah, I would say the Roode Brood.
The Roode Brood is the most original
Yeah.
of this whole group.
Then
Then
everything
the
else
perfect
is either team, family, or like the Natural Disasters makes sense.
because it is
Far
their
as the
team
name,
name
yeah.
still. So again, WWE, please just bring back cool team names.
Keep it simple. Keep people intrigued and.
So yes, as long as the name still makes you understand who at least the captains were,
Right.
or something like that, that makes sense. But just not team captain or team Raw or team SmackDown. So those are our 6. Jim, thank you so much. We'll be back next week with a bigger Survivor Series rankings, which will be a lot harder, I think.
Definitely.
All right.
Look forward to it, folks.
Yeah. Have a good one.
See you next week.